Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining today's webinar. It looks like we have folks from all over, which I love. And yes, we did not plan to wear white, but we joined the Zoom meeting and just all happened to be in the same color. So we're already off to a great start. But we are very excited for today's webinar because we have a very special guest for today. But my name is Liana. I'm the Education Program Manager here at Xeros. I'm joined with Courtney, our Customer Success Manager for VTS, and we have our very own VTS graphic designer, Ellen. So today, Courtney and Ellen are going to be chatting through how VTS approached their Wrapped campaign that they recently built in Flex and what that process looked like from a designer's perspective. So if you guys have any questions for Courtney or Ellen throughout today's webinar, feel free to throw them in the Q&A chat window and we will answer them at the end. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to Courtney to get us started.
Perfect. I am so excited to be with y'all today and to chat with Ellen about BTS and the Wrapped campaign. I guess, start off a little bit, I've been with Ceros for almost 4 years now, and I've been working with Ellen and the BTS team for a little while. I had a little stint where I worked with them before Ellen actually joined, but it's been great working with her and seeing all of the great content that they've been producing, especially with this BTS Wrapped campaign built in Flex. So Ellen, I'd love to hand it over to you. Tell us a little bit about VTS and your work.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. So, my name is Ellen Okamura. I forgot to change that on my intro or my little name tag, but you can see me on the webinar post. But I'm a graphic designer over at VTS. We've been working with Ceros for a long time, but I actually joined VTS probably about like 5 to 6 months ago, back in November. So I'm fairly new, but Flex has been an awesome tool. A little bit of context, VTS is a tech-driven solutions platform that helps the commercial real estate system. And so as one of the leading technology providers, like, within our industry, it's important that we differentiate and be more innovative, so that's where Saros has come in to help our team a lot. Um, and a little bit of background, I'm also from Austin, Texas. I see a lot of Austin, Texases in the chat. Howdy, y'all. But currently I'm based out of New York City, which I see a lot in the chat as well.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of people from all over the place.
Yeah,
Perfect.
super
Um,
exciting.
well, tell me a little bit about the process of creating the Wrapped campaign prior to actually building anything in Flex. What did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with every campaign, there's a lot of research. And I'm not sure how many designers are in the chat right now, but from the design perspective, we always start with wireframes and inspiration boards. Everybody has a different type of process. For us, I started with our creative director, Charlie, and he and I did a lot of research. And I'm not sure, for those who've seen the Wrap campaign, it's very much based on Spotify's Wrapped, very iconic. And a lot of companies started doing this trend as well. And I think it really picked up in a great way because it showed a lot of varieties, diversity, and also a fun way to show stats and accomplishments at the end of the year. And so that's exactly what we wanted to do. So a lot of I feel like we did days of inspiration, taking a look into other sites, what they did right, what maybe we didn't want to do in our specific interaction. And then from there, we went on to Figma. So Figma, I think right now is the industry leading tool for, say, like, product design. And so we've been doing that, a lot of Figma building. And so a lot of low fidelity to mid fidelity wireframes were built out before I even hopped into Flex. And then from there, I used Sarah's. So actually, let me rewind a little bit more. Because when I came in, even though we had been using Saros, I know you traditionally have Studio. So Saros Studio, our team has been using that for years. But Flex was a newer product, and I got to join and start on Flex. So this was a really cool opportunity for me. And I dove in. It helps because a little bit of my background, I've done some dabbling in some product design as well. So I understood a little bit more about the responsive elements, and then coordinating with Liana, Travis, and the team on any questions I had. And then that's how I started out in Flex, just building and dropping elements in and getting to play with.
Perfect. We always tell our customers if you have experience in Figma, you're going to pick up Flex really well. So I'm glad that you had that same experience. What was the core goal of your experience, and how did that shape how you went about telling the story of BTS Wrapped?
Yeah. So 2025 for us was a huge year. We had our AI product that had just launched, VTS AI. And so, because of all the enthusiasm it was met with, we were like, why don't we show it in our Wrapped campaign? So, we have a section down here in Wrapped, and it's using the beautiful Flex Parallax element. Love that. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But, we really wanted to showcase AI and also a lot of our company as a whole stats, and so we thought this campaign would be a really, really fun way to do that. And even though most people in the commercial real estate industry know us, people outside of that might not. So it we figured it would be a fun way to get our name out as well. I love going through rap campaigns on LinkedIn. It's yeah, as a designer, it's like a fun little thing to do. And even if you're not a designer, I feel like they're just fun to look through. Visually compelling stats, stuff to kind of engage yourself when all you go through during the day is like pitch decks and you see the same content over and over. So it was a really fun experience to build, and we got a lot of creativity with it as well.
Awesome. That leads me really well into my next question, which is I want to learn a little bit more about your background as a designer. I think that's a really important piece to touch on, and how well you were able to pick up Flex.
Yeah. So, my design background. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and therefore, out of college, my first job was actually at a tech startup. So, my background's pretty tech heavy. I was actually talking with Liana and Courtney about this right before the webinar started, but I have a little blip where I did a little bit of sports betting work. So I worked for the entertainment industry for a little bit. But traditionally, it was tech startups, smaller scale companies that were tech oriented. Then I did a large scale entertainment corporation, and then now I'm at VTS, which is a little bit of a it's an established company, but we're not a huge group either. So it's a small but mighty team. And I think what's really cool about, having this background and blending it into Flex and getting to work with Saros and building out this experience is that like it gave me a little bit of insight into I guess everything, both like how the entertainment industry worked, little notes that I've learned from that industry, and then bringing it into the tech how we have different audiences. So how do tech audiences react to this? And I think in this day and age, there is so much marketing, and most of my design has been marketing with a little bit of product background. But because of how often we go through stuff, we see ads every day, even when we don't know we're seeing advertisements. And so to kind of stand out from that noise, how do we make ourselves digestible but not overstimulating? And I think building these one-page experiences can be really fun and beneficial for clients because you can digest it as long as it's not too crazy. Sometimes crazy is good, but I think it's finding that balance of being clean and chic, but also having, a little bit of elements to stand out from other items.
Perfect. I feel like that balance is sometimes really hard to achieve, but I think you've done a really great job in this experience. Um, my next question is, walk me through a moment in this experience where design and interactivity really elevate the story.
I think there are several moments when I was building this experience out where I'm like, "Oh, this is my favorite part. This is my favorite part." I think Saros provided a lot of really fun items, like, and capabilities. Personally, I throughout the whole experience, I could say my favorite is the on view function. So anybody who's worked in Ceros, I think Studio too has this function. I think it just really makes the website clean. So if anybody's gone to our Wrapped website, I think it's wrapped.vts.com, you'll see that as you scroll through the experience, items will pop up and kind of not fly in, but appear, and I just think it has a very clean appeal to everything. It feels and I think that's really cool, and I love that you guys brought that into Flex too. That's something that our team really, really values. We do a lot of animations, have a lot of numbers, and I think just having that slick kind of aesthetic really helps. So that was huge for us. Um, I also mentioned this earlier. I'm a huge fan of the parallax as well. We used a parallax experience over in the AI section, and that's something I've been itching to touch in a little bit more as we build out other experiences in Flex.
Yeah, parallax was a big one that a lot of our customers were excited about. Um, you've talked a little bit about the campaign. I would love to hear a little bit more about how this experience fits into your broader marketing strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, I would say like originally going along with what I said about our goal, this campaign was to really get kind of our name out there. It's more like a beauty campaign in a sort of sense. One to really highlight what we had accomplished in 2021, but also, hey, like for people who are in the industry, here's like a fun way to see all our stats in one giant experience where you don't have to like hop around to different web pages to see these stats. It's all kind of combined into one. But also it's nice too because again, commercial real estate industries can look at this and be like, "Oh, this looks really interesting. Let us take a look." Because in the end, everything kind of does blend together. Commercial real estate, maybe they're getting a space, maybe they're thinking about going into commercial real estate. So there's different ways that could help. And honestly, I think and so I'm working on a campaign actually right now in the Ceros, not in studio, but we are planning to transition it to Flex very soon, which I know is a capability that you guys have. But our Voti, which is this data quarterly report that we produce every quarter. It's got a lot of traction, and I think that's actually how we started in Ceros. We really love Ceros because I think like that on view capability and function helped our Voti get elevated. So traditionally, the commercial real estate industry is how do I say it? It's very traditional in a sense. It's not really susceptible to a lot of tech and change. And I think that's something BTS does really well is that they are more open to doing these very like tech and forward driven aesthetics that maybe this industry hasn't really touched on yet. And so doing that and going from an industry that would be like, "Oh, send me a PDF. We want PDFs," to being instead, "Hey, look at our Xero site," has made it more digestible. And I think that's why these sites work really well, is because
Yeah.
they are very like digestible sites. You don't have to send over this huge PDF file to a client. You can show them a site. And I know you guys do password lock stuff, gated content if you want, and that might be something that we look into in the future, but this has been a real, like, fun campaign to, like, just send to people if they want stats and want, like, an overview of who we are as a company.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think also something that I always remind my customers, especially like on the sales side, one of the things that I love about Saros in comparison to like a PDF or something like that is all of the analytics that you get along with it. So instead of just knowing, hey, I sent this, 20-page PDF to this person and, I know they received it versus in Saros, you can see, okay, like 50% of my audience is actually engaging with that content and, it's actually meeting the audience where it is, which I think is huge.
I
Um,
love that portion, by the way. That's
yeah,
so as a designer, I don't usually get to look at the analytics myself. I usually go through, whoever I'm partnering with on the team.
right.
But it's nice to me myself to go in and be like, "Oh, look at these numbers. That's awesome."
Yeah. It shows that you made an impact too, which I feel like sometimes is a little bit difficult as a graphic designer. Um,
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Lastly, before we get to the template that we created and some audience questions, what would you recommend that designers think about upfront when building their first responsive piece of content with Flex?
I would definitely start with what the goal is in mind. So for us, our goal, even though it was a beauty campaign, we're like, we really want to showcase these stats and how you want to tell a story. I think it's really important to just showcase like, hey, or know when you start what you want to showcase, essentially. So the nice thing about this experience is that we worked with the full team on it. So a little bit of the product team and the marketing team, and just seeing how we wanted to like arrange these stats in the order. What was the story that we wanted to tell with this? So we start with the overview, then we go into AI and all the big accomplishments, and then we're going into our multifamily product. And so having that in mind before you start even building a wireframe is incredibly helpful because that way you're not scrambling and rearranging stuff once you're in the experience. So, in my opinion, I think it's great to start with Figma. I think it's great to use two tools. Throw together a low fidelity wireframe in Figma, and then definitely when you jump into Flex, if you're a first time Flex user like I was, definitely utilize the Saros team. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I was on email threads being like, "Oh, I'm not quite sure how to do that." And I'd ping the team and they'd get back to me really quickly and it'd be fixed within the day. Um, and that was always an so awesome for me because that was my first time working with such a quick team for getting back to me, and that was really beneficial. So if you have any issues, if you're working in Flex, I would strongly suggest using the support team and also the tutorial videos. So those are the two that I started with. And then I will say my background for product, and this might be something I suggest too for anybody starting, is just watching a quick short little YouTube video on responsive elements. The nice thing about Flex, if we didn't say earlier, was that it is a responsive building tool. So that means any size monitor that you're on, any size computer, it's going to resize the site to it. And it works really nicely because clients, you never know what they're looking from a phone, from a tablet, from a computer. And that was also some cool stats that I got to see when using Cirrus too, is how many people opened it on mobile versus tablet. Do people use tablet? I use my
Yeah.
iPad all the time, so but I wasn't sure how many other people do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely a cool piece of analytics that you get from Saros too. Okay, I'm gonna share the template that we put together. Let's see, here we go. Is everyone seeing the VTS template now? Cool.
I can see it.
Perfect. All right. So this template we put together after Ellen and I met and decided that we were going to do this webinar. We thought it would be really cool to be able to hand you all something that was similar to their template, had some of the same functionality. So I'm going to walk through this template really quick. So first, we have this header with a great CTA. And then this is taken from one of the sections of their template too. So it's kind of like an accordion. As you hover over these different sections, you get a different like stat or different line of text, which I think is a really cool way to kind of like hide some content, but have folks interact with what they're most interested in. Then there's a really great embedded video, some text in here, some data visualization cards in this section. So these could be updated however you like, but gets you a great start. You can add some really cool hover effects and different animations and things like that here to those. This is very similar to something that Ellen had built in her experience too, where you hover over these different things. I think you can also click on them and then they stay, which is really neat too. And then we have a pretty carousel that you can kind of go through some different images with some text in here as well, and another full screen video, and another really fun kind of like voice of the customer section that I always find really cool to look at too. And then a really great footer section with another CTA. So we're really excited for you guys to have access to this. We'll send it in the follow-up email for you. Um, but with that, we would love to hear some audience questions.
It
Okay.
is a sleek design, Travis.
First question for you, Ellen. How did you think about structuring your layout in Flex to make it responsive, easier from the start?
That's a great question because I don't think when I originally started, quite honestly, if I really even thought about that. Something diving in is that I always, and we actually just had a website redesign and we had the same kind of issue where not issue, but process where we went through desktop first and then we did tablet and mobile. And something about Flex, which I really love, is that when you start building on desktop, it automatically kind of restructures mobile and tablet for you, so stacking elements. But going forward, like from what I've learned about this experience too, is that even though it does do that, it is good for people to design with that in mind that this might do that. So if you have a specific section that is incredibly maybe bulky with items, or you know you want it to have a parallax experience, you might want to think ahead of time on specific items that you know are special and differentiate that won't just stack and just have little like Figma designs built out for that. The nice thing is that from Flex, like, you have your parent element that you build on, and then everything else follows that, but you can edit these other elements as they are too, and have it be completely separate from the parent if you need to. And so that's what I did for I can't really even put my finger on which section I did that on. There's a little bit of tweaking for sure in mobile and tablet, but that's because I wanted specific effects to show up.
Yeah.
I think parallax was one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. And then another question from the audience is, how did Flex impact your ability to move faster or iterate on this experience?
Ooh, I definitely think the speed, it helps so much rather than, building out experiences individually from like, desktop, then tablet, then mobile. It's great because you paste or like maybe you want to bring an image from another experience in. You could copy and paste that into desktop and it'll immediately feed it into tablet and mobile,
Mhm.
which means I don't have to copy and paste 3 times. I can only do it once and it'll be in there. So that has been like an incredible, like sped up process. And then what I touched on a little bit earlier about, stuff experiences stacking, that
Mhm.
also helped too. Because if I make edits to the parent, then the stacking and all the cascading down to the child components end up reflecting that. So I don't have to spend hours recreating the same experience just on different sizes. It all kind of goes in at once.
For sure. I remember like working in studio and, suddenly I'll decide, actually, I want this second section that shows up to be, fourth on the page. And that was always such a pain in studio.
Oh my
So
god.
it's definitely much, much easier in Flex now. Okay, well, I think that's all of the audience questions. Thanks again, Ellen, for jumping on. And Liana, I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ellen, for walking through your experience in Flex, how you designed the wrap campaign. And Courtney, thank you also for having this conversation with Ellen. So everyone joined can get a little bit more insight from a designer's perspective on how, you can utilize Flex to create these quick responsive experiences. So again, thank you both so much. Thank you guys for all joining. We can't wait to see what else you create, Ellen, and what BTS creates in Saros. And that template Courtney just shared is available for everyone to utilize. And we'll share a follow up recording of this webinar afterwards and the template as well. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining. I can't wait to see you guys at the next webinar. And I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursdays and a great upcoming weekend.
Awesome. Thank you for
Everyone.
having me.
Bye, everyone.